Welcome participants to the 15th annual MIT CDOIQ Symposium. And particularly welcome to Track E. I'm Carl Gerber, Chief Data Officer for Deloitte US, and I'll be your track producer for this session. The MIT CDOIQ Symposium continues to expand our global reach with an excellent lineup of sessions that bring a world view. This is session 2E, Different Journeys, One Direction, Data Management Global Communities. Over the years, several data and information practitioners put their professional passion into a common effort to gather best practices, compare lessons, produce best practice, and formalize data management frameworks for the benefit of their organizations, clients, and the wider society. From these different journeys, the well-known Data Association Management International, the EDM Council, Women in Data, and the Institute of Information Management, amongst others, were funded with the common goal to create not-for-profit global communities to support the data and information management profession. This session will be a panel discussion. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So please use the Wahoo Q&A tab and pay particular attention to voting up those questions that you would like to see addressed. Now, let me introduce our panel moderator, Nino Letteriello. He is kicking off our inaugural international track. This is the first international session ever. Nino, co-director of the Symposium and MIT CDO International Chair. He is also president of the Italian Data Management Association and EMEA coordinator for DAMA, as well as founder of N Limited and Fit Group. He is the winner of various international awards, including DAMA International Award for 2020 and 2021 Top 100 Most Influential Data and Analytics Leaders. I'll be handing over the panelists to Nino, and he will introduce them to you, our distinguished panelists today.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Carl, for the introduction and to stress the fact that this is the first session ever of this international track of the CDO Symposium on its 15th edition. So we're quite excited about it. Let me introduce the panel. So I would start with Peter Aiken, who is president of DAMA International. And Peter is a knowledge data management authority, is an associate professor at Virgin Commonwealth University, as the president of DAMA International, and also an associate director of the MIT International Society of Chief Data Officer. And with more than 35 years experience, Peter has learned from working with hundreds of data management practices in 30 countries, and is the author of 10 books, which are on the prime list of CDO's reading list. And this is also, if you want, the connection to our second panelist, John, who has written the preface of one of Peter's book. And John is a senior data management strategist and executive with over 40 years of experience in the finance industry. And over his career, John has held various roles in supporting organization data strategy and data implementation objectives. In 2006, John became one of the first CDO in finance with his appointment as CDO at Citibank. And he went on to hold the role of a chief data officer in both the public and private sectors, serving as CDO of Bank of America and holding the post of CDO for the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. And today, John is president of the EDM Council, which supports over 250 organizations globally and comprised of over 10,000 members. Then our third panelist is Sadie Lawrence, and founder and executive director of Women in Data. And having taken a winding road from piano performance to psychology and then into data science, Sadie is passionate about helping others find their path into tech and democratizing data. Sadie St. Lawrence is the founder and executive director of Women in Data, an international non-for-profit organization focused on increasing diversity in data careers. And in addition to her work with women in data, Sadie is also a data science teacher and has taught over 300,000 people in data science to date. Which our last panelist is Professor Oyi, and is founder and president of the Institute of Information Management Africa and the International University of Information Management. And Oyi is a respected information management practitioner, founder of the Records and Information Management Awareness Foundation, as well as publisher of the Information Management World Magazine and Africa Journal, and executive producer of the IM World on Television. He has received different international awards for his contribution toward development of IM industry, especially in Nigeria and Africa. And in 2004, he received the Great Minds of the 21st Century Award, which is an award presented to him by the American Biographical Institute. So welcome to all our panelists. As mentioned by Carl, we will have a bit of discussion. We'll leave some Q&A at the end. And I would like to start our chat, our discussion today, our panel, with a question. As you are all representing non-for-profit organization in the field of data management, it would be interesting if you could tell us about the organization you represent, its history, the vision, the mission, and your current asset membership base. And I would like to ask Peter to start first, then followed by John, Sadie, and Oye, please. So, Peter, up to you.
Thank you very much for putting this panel together. I'm going to tell you all a little story. Carl, if you'll put the first slide up about DAMA International. What we've discovered, one more, Carl, thanks, is that the overall journey that people take to data is that they're in IT for 10 to 15 years. And after about 10 to 15 years, they start to realize that, gosh, if somebody did the data a little better, things would be easier in IT and in business. And yet, for some reason, it still takes us 10 to 15 years to gain their attention. So DAMA International is dedicated to shortening that amount of time that we have. We are a non-profit organization, excuse me, not-for-profit organization. We're housed in Seattle, Washington here. Clearly, our vision is to be the umbrella organization for those who engage in information and data management around this. We've got some very specific goals in here which focus on practitioners, also influencing practices and forming alliances with my colleagues on the panel here and other organizations around this. Carl, next slide, please. The DAMA International started out as a group of individuals who got together for dinner meetings and were just sort of discussing data stuff. And they kind of pulled it all together. Although you can see our Canadian colleagues on the bottom, RMAC, actually started in 1971. But this has gotten us to where we are today with a couple of significant milestones on here. In 2008, we published the first DAMA Data Dictionary. That was a dictionary of terms having to do with this. We also published a body of knowledge that we are now on our second version of at this point. And then, Carl, one more slide again, if we could. We've also developed a series of exams. And these are specialty exams as well as general exams that we have that help people to get better at data and, more importantly, share their knowledge at other people. So we've linked this into the LinkedIn badge system and things like that that people can take a look at as we go through all of these bits and pieces around here. And we have now communities around the world. So Carl, if I can go one more slide, please. 51 active chapters. We have about 40 forming chapters. And luckily, it's a wonderful groundswell of support from places that we simply haven't been exposed to. So if you take John's 10,000 members and our 15,000, we've got a good bunch. We'll add Sadie's and other people to it, and we can probably count about 100,000 data practitioners around with all of this. One more slide, Carl, and then I'll be finished. Just looking at challenges that we have. And the challenges in the community are ones that we've been working on. We've gotten okay with putting out a body of knowledge vision, we're doing okay. We've had a terribly ineffective approach at increasing the support for educational activities around all of these things. Also, DAMA has had to become a member that went a organization that went from a small number of members to literally thousands just about overnight. So we're working on managing our own data as well with the process. So I look forward to the rest of the panel. And thank you for inviting us, and I'll turn it over to John.
Thanks, Peter, and thanks, Nino. Let me give you a little bit about the EDM Council. Like Peter's organization, and I like to refer to DAMA as our cousins. We are go to the next slide, please. So we are also a nonprofit trade association. We were formed in 2005. We are a worldwide organization with over 250 members. Our mission is very similar: elevate the practice of data and analytics management and support the role of the data professional. My personal experience going through this as a technologist, similar to what's been discussed, and moving into data management, I've seen that journey, and being able to create a community where we can collaborate together is so important in this field. The council's principles laid out there: responsible data-driven organization. Given the amount of data and the issues with privacy and ethical use of data, that's a critical component to one of the things that we advocate. And we also advocate that the need for data literacy for everyone is critical. We advocate industry collaboration. So quite a long while ago, we realized we cannot be the smartest people in the room. We have to attract the smart people into the room. So that's one of the activities we do. And knock on wood, we've been very successful bringing in industry experts to collaborate together. And as a nonprofit, we are neutral, we don't lobby, and that gives us an ability to coordinate with colleagues across industry, including the public sector, private sector regulators, et cetera. Next slide. Next slide. There we go. Real quick, our areas of advocacy, similar to your introduction, we focus on best practices. So over the course of our existence, we've developed a number of models. The one I'll talk to you about briefly, similar to the Data Book of Knowledge, we call the DCAM Data Capability Assessment Model. And you can see that there's other things. We are just about to publish a similar model for cloud migration and adoption. And we do other activities like focus on ESG and return on investment. We are big supporters of industry standards, and we have actually curated one of those standards for finance called FIBO, Financial Industry Business Ontology. Training and certification, similar to what Peter said, critical that we train not only the data practitioners, but the business people as well, and everybody involved in the supply chain of data. As a trade association, we perform research and benchmarking. We do it every other year, industry assessment, and we are about to publish a data management assessment in the pharma and health sciences industry, which is going to come out in a couple of weeks. Regulatory engagement is critical. And again, as a nonprofit, we enjoy good relationships with global regulators, and also, bringing those experts together, creating that network in a global environment. Next slide. Just a quick view, give you a sense of the membership. Our heritage was the financial industry, but data affects everybody. And you can see by this list of logos who joined just in the recent months, the expand and then the importance of data management across all industries. On the left side, you can see some of the major banks: Credit Suisse, Santander, Barclays. But look at the right side. Retail organizations are deep into the data space: Coca-Cola, Michelin, Loblaw, which is one of the largest supermarket chains in Canada. The health sciences: AstraZeneca, Humana, insurance, Cigna, and New York Life. And look in the middle, the big data players: Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Snowflake, are all members of the EDM Council. Next slide, please. And our obligatory attempt to put every single logo onto a single page. So you can see our breadth and across industry is pretty wide. Next slide. I'll spend a few minutes just talking about the two key things that we work on. And one is, as I mentioned, the data capability assessment model. And in short, what this is this is a framework for capabilities to establish effective data management. If you look at the diagram on the right, you'll see it's based on a core set of foundational capabilities which evolve into the execution ring, collaboration, analytics. Simply put, you have to have a good data strategy, good program, good funding, and then you follow the supply chain of business, architecture, data architecture, quality, and governance. You have to collaborate because everybody touches data. That's the data control environment. And then again, because of AI and ML and advanced analytics, the data practitioner must know how to curate data and feed it effectively and ethically into these models. The model has been adopted across industry, both public and private sector, and we continue to expand and create new versions. In fact, version 3 will be out next year. Next, please. Based off that model, we were approached last March by Google and Morgan Stanley, liking the DCAM model and the way we created the framework. They said, can you do a similar one for cloud migration and adoption? And from that humble little two-person discussion within months, this turned into a activity bringing in 70 organizations, over 200 SMEs in architecture and engineering. We've been curating this now for 14 months, and we're going to be publishing the final version in September. You can see the major firms on the left side, banks, exchanges, etc. The technology companies, all 4 major cloud providers, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and IBM, have contributed their engineers into this activity, including Snowflake, and then you see the other tech companies, Informatica, Data World, etc., Calibra. An important part of this activity is we've reached out to global regulators as they opine on standards and frameworks for cloud, and we've had great response so far. All the regulators are very interested in what this framework is evolving into, which is basically an accessible and auditable framework. And we're building some training programs around that. Next slide. And 2 weeks ago, we published the first component of this model, which we call the 14 key controls for managing data risk or sensitive data in the cloud. And you can see, again, similar to a good data management practice, you have to know who's accountable. In cloud, things automated, cataloging and classification, which leads to access and usage controls, which leads to data protection and privacy. Those controls ride across the entire data lifecycle. And then what are the best practices from a technical architecture perspective? This was published 2 weeks ago, and we are working with a number of consultancies and private sector firms to build out a auditable framework that would become certifiable as organizations build their cloud environment. Last slide, and then I'll turn it back to you, Nino. It's just a quick view of the other things we do. Again, CDMC, we're working on programs around defining data ROI, which Peter, I'm sure a lot of your members talk about, how do you validate why we're doing this work? ESG is a big topic in terms of environmental issues and how data is being managed there. A number of interest groups, knowledge graph, as I mentioned, AI, machine learning, and open forums, a CDO leader forum, a women data professional forum. So Sadie, anxious to talk to you about the work you're doing, and of course, responsible ethics and AI. Thank you, and thanks everybody, and welcome to my other colleagues on this call.
I think you handed over to Sadie quite nicely, so I would let her go next, please.
Yes, thanks, Nino. And I'm loving all the maps each of us have. The data person in me wants to layer the maps together to see where our chapters can connect. So that's a project after this call for sure. So you can go to the next slide. At Women in Data, our mission is to close the gender gap and increase diversity in data careers. So we do this through our 3 pillars, which is part of our member journey, which goes through awareness, then into education, and then advancement in the career. And, at the heart of everything we do really comes down to our members. And as members come together, those form chapters. So we are very lucky to have 47 chapters in 17 countries across the globe. We have a community of about 20,000 people and a network and a member base of 500. So our journey does not have the timeline that you have seen before, and you can go ahead and go to the next slide. We actually started in 2015, and this really came from the need for community. And I like to say that mother is the necessity. And I was in my master's program in data science at that time and was lacking individuals to connect with in this space. So the first chapter started in Sacramento, just with the idea to bring the community together, but a vision of more equality and diversity in the space of data careers. And so for the first 2-3 years, we tested out a lot of programs, really just listened to our members. And it wasn't until 2017 that we opened our first sister chapter in San Francisco, not too far away, only about an hour and a half away. And that did really well and helped us to test the model of how we open additional chapters. And so our growth continued to accelerate. And then in 2019, we started some of our flagship programs with our residency program and continued to open additional chapters. It wasn't until last year in 2020, we saw really our exponential growth. We opened up our chapters internationally and added 30 new chapters. We created career coaching programs and mentorship programs. And then this year, we're continuing to add additional programs through the educational space and continuing to expand our chapters. You can go to the next slide. So all of our programs fall within our 3 pillars. I think it was Peter, I love, who said that they find a lot of people are established in their career and then come into this space realizing how much benefit having a deeper understanding of data can benefit them in their career and in their work. And we see that similar pattern go through that first awareness step of that light bulb moment. And so the programs that we have to help people come to that awareness is our local networking events, we have regional events, and then we have global webinars. In our education space, we run a residency program, which for a lot of those, what we call career transitioners, so people who are established in their career and are looking for an opportunity to work on a data science project, but aren't, out of college and want to do an internship. This is a great opportunity to get that hands-on experience as well. And then we have virtual study groups and career tracks. On the advancement side, we heavily lean on our mentorship. This has been a great program we started this year and have seen really high interest in this, looking always for mentors, as a lot of people are transitioning to this career. If you're established, you are in high demand. So definitely reach out to be a mentor. And then we also have our life coaching, and then also from that side of things, we also have our job placement that we work with one of our job placement partners. So if you're interested in getting involved, you can go to the next slide now. You can always become a member. You can go to our website at womenindata.com. You can start a chapter if you're a community builder and want to bring a local network of people together. And then you're always welcome to donate and support the mission. So I hope you can go to the next slide. And I hope you can stay connected with us. It's just at womenindata.org. And I'll hand it over to the next panelist.
Thank you very much, Sadi. I am Ambassador Dr. Oyewole. I'm the President, Chairman, Governing Council of the Institute of Information Management. The Institute of Information Management is an international professional institute. You can move to the next slide, please. We are the premier international professional institute in Africa. And over the years, there's been a huge gap talking about the data and information management industry in Africa. And in 2003 to 2004, we used to have a nonprofit organization called RIMA Foundation. The RIMA Foundation is RIMA is data and information. And in the course of the awareness creation, we had several requests coming in from professionals from different parts of Africa requesting for opportunity for them to have a platform where they can actually be certified as professionals in their field. And this led us into establishing the Institute of Information Management in 2010. And the mission is to ensure that professionals in this field across Africa have the opportunity where they can. So the vision of the Institute is to be recognized and respected as the premier data and information management institute across Africa, and also to help professionals in their career decisions, and also to institutionalize data and information management. Next slide. Next, please. So the Institute of Information Management has 9 chapters. We are represented in 9 countries, and those are the countries you have on the screen. Next slide. Just like I mentioned earlier on, the Institute actually was formed in 2010, and in 2017, we established the first ever international chapter in the United Kingdom. And in 2018, we were able to replicate this in other continents across the globe. And in 2019, the Institute of Information Management evolved by introducing the international.
So, Carl, I think we have possibly some technical issue with getting the audio. I don't know if it's something we can try to work on the backup, and perhaps we try to continue a little bit the discussion on a few of the other topics, and we recap.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, not very well. Oh yeah, unfortunately, it comes breaking. So
yes, now would be a good time to move into our panelist questions, Nino, that you were going to lead.
Yeah. And if we can do something from a technical perspective, we can recap from where we left it with Oyewole. Before we move to the question, I just wanted to make just a remark. Obviously, two things. There are a few words that are crossing, so it seems that there are a natural and obvious common matrix of initiatives such as awareness, being obviously one of the terms I've heard from the three and from the company. There is an element of education, so starting from the need or responding to a demand, and we are trying to do that. And also from a governance perspective, we are represented by local proximity, regional proximity, so via chapter existence in president in some case. And frankly, there was also an element that I wanted to. It's one of the topics that, unfortunately, over the last 18 months touched all of us in one way or the other. It was the pandemic. So one of the things that's been said multiple times, that obviously pandemics brought us a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities. So I would like just to ask the four of you, or the three of you, and we see if you can also address, how do you see your organization shaping in the future? What has been learned from this pandemic situation? How you see that to shape what you see, how moving into the few years ahead, and what are the benefit, which I think we have mentioned. We are all for non-for-profit, and we are both for communities and for society. So what are the benefits you think you are adding or focusing to bring into the society in the years ahead? Just for simplicity, I would follow the same order we gave at the beginning. So Peter and John and Sadi, and if you can connect as well, please. So Peter, to you. I think you are on mute.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yes, I was being quiet. Thank you, Nino. I think the real thing for the pandemic is that it has shown us the value of working in teams. Our board has been entirely remote for the past, well, during the pandemic. And more importantly, we've experienced a lot of growth during this. So it's shown a lot of organizational operational excellence around this, particularly around data management, which you'd hope we would do in that sense. But also in terms of connecting with people and reaching out. And I'll extend these remarks even to include my role as a professor at Virginia Commonwealth University, where I've had the last 2 semesters where I haven't met a single student in person, face to face. Of course, that's changing now. Fingers crossed it'll all get better. But I'm not sure that the lessons in DAMA are specific to data lessons in here. It's more about group. And this actually does lead us to, I think, one of our biggest challenges in the data management community, which is that when people are surveyed over and over again, they will tell us that 80% of the problems that they have out there are people and process challenges. They are not technical challenges. So this has allowed us to focus on those people and process challenges in a way that we simply haven't been able to before on that. John, I'll turn it back over to you.
Would it be me next, Nino? Okay.
Yes, please.
Let me jump in. So I won't lie to anybody here. When the pandemic hit and everything got locked down, as a discretionary spend trade association, we were starting to think the worst, right? As companies were cutting back on their expenses. It's amazing what followed. Instead of a reduction of spend and focus on data management, and Peter, to your point, it exploded. A tremendous attention to the need for information, supporting data programs within companies, supporting the data professional within companies. The council actually grew significantly since the pandemic. And the way I see it is this. One of the things that the pandemic forced us all into, although we were moving in that direction anyway, was a drive towards digitalization. Right? Everything we were doing now was Zoom calls, and you were buying your supermarket food online, and now all of a sudden, all of those concerns about personal data, information in the cloud, is all out there now because that was the only way we were able to communicate with each other. So virtually meeting, as Peter pointed out, but now all of this data has to be captured, analyzed, predictions have to be made. And here's the key thing. When the financial crisis hit 10 years ago, we didn't have some of these capabilities. And I think there was some confusion as to how to manage ourselves out of that. When this occurred, there was an immediate recognition of the importance of information, and therefore we've seen the focus on data management grow tremendously. Huge increase in education and the desire for people to come together. So I think that's a key observation of the crisis. And Nino, to your point going forward, as we move more and more into digitization, and we see it in evidence that I mentioned the work that's being done around cloud standards, all predictions say our data is going to be in the cloud in the next coming years. So our membership right now, focus on that, focus on ethical use of data, because now all of your data is in the cloud. Is it being accessed? Is it being protected? It's had a very interesting impact on this profession, in a positive way. I hate to say a crisis creates a positive effect, but it did. And I think it's positioned all of us professionally to really focus on, our craft and make sure that we're doing data management in an appropriate way.
Yeah, and I'll just go ahead and add to that. I, echo what Peter and John have said in terms of the growth, which was quite surprising. But in hindsight, I really look at it and see that a lot of people in our community were looking for ways to connect. And I think that's one of the reasons we saw so much of the growth was they were looking for those communities that they could be a part of. And one of the things that this allowed us to do is really work more as a global network. So if you think about the tools that we're using today, as we all work remotely, all of these existed. Zoom existed before the pandemic, right? Slack and Teams and all these communication. But what I really saw it do was, it was the fastest change management we ever had in a workforce transformation. There was no, hey, let's come along, let's try and use Zoom more. Everyone just had to. And so what that allowed us to do was connect more from a global network, because we were all using the same common denominator. One person wasn't missing out from an in-person meeting. We were all connected here in a virtual environment. And so as we move forward within Women in Data, we definitely want to keep some of the aspects that have been beneficial for working in a digital space. However, we do feel there is a piece missing from having that in-person connection that happens at our local chapter meetings. So we're still in the process, as many are, and what does that hybrid model look like, and how do we redefine that new normal? But I think just overall, you know, it was the fastest change management we ever went through, and we've seen a lot of benefits from it in terms of being able to connect, collaborate, and actually work in a way that's better for documentation, because it isn't passed from mouth to mouth. It's now has to be documented in a digital format so we can share with another person.
Sadie, to your point, there was no more borders, right? Because suddenly, you know, I'm talking to people in Asia and in Europe, unfortunately, usually on their time. So 4 in the morning, I'm on a call with India, you know, that kind of thing. But it took down barriers that heretofore existed, right? We can bring all these people together on a global basis that we never were able.
Exactly. I don't think I've used world calendars as much in my life from this year. I have all the apps. That's the only barrier we realized, was it's a time thing of who has their video on and who doesn't, because it's way too early in the morning for them.
Tell you a quick, I did a presentation last week to the Indian and Southeast Asian markets. It ran from midnight to 4 in the morning. And 2 hours later, we presented to the Standard Bank African Regulatory Cloud Symposium at 7 in the morning. So no sleep all the way through, but we hit all corners of the world in a short period of time. So it was really fascinating.
Yes, in Africa, talking about how we intend to move forward post-COVID. Shortly after the lockdown last year, 2020, we were able to work with a number of organizations, you know, trying to see how we could be of assistance to them, because the lockdown actually affected quite a number of businesses, number of government activities were paralyzed simply because of the fact that most of the public organizations and a large chunk of private organizations in Africa here has manual processes that are being run physically. And when you talk about the digital transformation agenda, this is something that is just you know, coming up in Africa. And the lockdown actually had tremendous negative impact on a lot of businesses. A lot of businesses had to close down, and you know, so many challenges. So shortly after the lockdown in 2020, the Institute of Information Management was able to launch a national digital transformation awareness campaign. And that led us to helping a lot of public and private organizations in helping them to identify what they actually require to put in place to ensure that they're able to transform their businesses digitally and able to take advantage of technology in running their businesses. So we actually had sessions, we have quite a number of sessions where we were able to outline, you know, the processes for digital transformation, the resources that are required that needs to be in place for them. And this year, 2021, a good number of organizations right now have been able to build it into their individual budgets, you know, trying to see how they can actually take advantage of the digital transformation initiative in remodeling their business processes and being able to take advantage of technology in running their businesses. So a lot is going to happen going forward because some of the challenges being faced by the industry in Africa has to do with lack of regulations, lack of laws, lack of specifications and standards that organizations can actually take advantage of, you know, talking about running their businesses digitally. And we are going to be doing a lot in ensuring that professionals in the field get adequate training, education, and certification that will ensure that they're able to help their individual organizations, you know, to take advantage of the digital transformation and be able to deploy some of the solutions that are available. Because right now in Africa, we depend grossly on foreign-made solutions. So we want a situation where we can work with different organizations like EDM Council and so on and so forth, where we can actually leverage on those materials that have been developed rather than us reinventing the wheel. We would like to partner with other different organizations, and I can see a good number of panelists here. We'll be willing and open to work with you in ensuring that professionals in this client get the required and adequate training, certification, and also how we can leverage on some of the structures that you have on ground in helping individuals, organizations, and governments, you know, to embrace digital transformation. So those are the few things we plan doing going forward.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't as ambitious to hope for this discussion to be an enabler for such conversation, but no, it's absolutely great. Sorry, I know, and glad you are able to return to us now. Unfortunately, you couldn't finish your. I don't know if you wish in the end to do a couple of final remarks, or if there was anything else you wanted to pick up. Those slides will be anyway circulated, so people will have a chance to look at those.
Well, if I have the opportunity, I can still try to you know, round up the presentation. It will be nice.
Please, just a couple of minutes while we open to the attendees for any Q&A, so we can wrap them up and ask to the panelists.
Okay.
So I think.
So as a professional institute, we provide training programs, we do certifications, and we have membership. We have over 1,000 paid members. And talking about our general membership across the globe, we are over 2,000, and we're still counting, because before the end of the year, we still have a good number of members that are waiting to be inducted into the Institute of Information Management. So in terms of training, we provide privacy-related training, data management training, big data, digital transformation, business intelligence, knowledge management, archives management, and so on. Next slide, please. And being a professional institute, you know, like I mentioned in the earlier slide, we have chapters across the globe. Those are some of the pictures of our members in other parts of the world. Next slide. And in Ghana, South Africa, Australia, United States, and so on. Next slide. Then in terms of global partnership, we've got a number of international organizations we're affiliated with, we've been working with over the last 10 years. And next slide. And we are partners to an accreditation body in Nigeria called NINAS. It's an internationally recognized accreditation body. We're in partnership with them for the accreditation of all our courses and certification programs. Next slide. And these are some of the leadership talking about the Institute of Information, the global leadership in the UK, in the US, in South Africa, in Ghana, in Nigeria, and so on and so forth. Next slide. So the Institute of Information Management is open to professionals from different walks of life. And we actually did not restrict our membership to any particular field or discipline, because you all will agree with me that data management is everybody's responsibility, regardless of your field, regardless of your discipline, regardless of the industry or sector in which you operate. You are bound to generate data you're bound to store data, to use data, to share data, and do so many things around data. So we see the need for data literacy to cut across, sectors. Accountants, lawyers, medical doctors, engineers. We do have quite a number of them in our membership because we want them to have the basic skills and knowledge in data management so that they can actually leverage and being able to take advantage of the data being generated in the course of their business activities, in decision making, and in also helping to run their organization well, to reduce the cost of operation, and to ensure that they are able to achieve the business objectives. So like I mentioned, we are open to collaborations. We have lots of programs that we would love to partner with different organizations across the globe. And we also welcome sponsors and supporters across the globe. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And I look forward to more contribution from other panelists.
Oh, thank you, and as I said, glad you were able to rejoin us. What I think there are again some commonality we were mentioning, quite interesting about this hybrid. I think we knew the old way, we knew what was the emergency way, and now this new way is this hybrid that I don't think people are. Well, I'm not entirely sure what it will be. This mixing between remote and a global reach to more localized and regional events. So it will be something new that we will discover. It will be interesting to see how things evolves. And so the other bit, it seems the only challenge is not data anymore, but is time zone. It seems that is the only limiting factor at this stage. So I just I see, Carl, you reappear. I don't know if there is because you want to mention. I've seen there are a couple in here, otherwise I can progress.
Nino, if you're ready to take some audience questions, I have them queued up for you.
Yes, please.
Okay. I want to compliment the entire panel because you have inspired the audience to want to join your respective organizations. So we've received several questions, and I'll kind of give you a multi-part question, and this is for each of you. One, everyone wants to know how they can join a local chapter in their country. Secondly, the question is, must I get a certification in order to join your organization? And then lastly, how are your organizations collaborating? You have similar models, and how are you on a global basis collaborating? So if you could, each of you address the three-part question.
Thank you, Carl. I think given the time, I might ask a couple of minutes each. We should be able perhaps to take also another one. So following the same order, Peter, please.
Sure. So joining DAMA is pretty easy. The website is dama.org. And this goes to the word DAMA meaning lots of different things in lots of different languages, but we at least own the website dama.org. So that's the way to get started. Addressing the question of certification, DAMA does not require you to be certified as a data management professional in order to join. And we have lots of students and also some retirees, graybeards we call them, that are going to be allowed in this. Sorry, not allowed, but welcome and an important part of our community. More to the point, though, in terms of collaboration between the organizations, there's just a lot that we're doing. And I don't want you to think of it as just coordinating between us among on the panel, but think about it in your organizations. What has happened is that most every knowledge worker inside of your organization has learned how to do data on their own. That may produce the results that you want, but it may not. So the more that we can hold hands in the background here and keep this together, I think we will all go forward. John, I'll turn it over to you.
Pete, I couldn't agree with you more. First of all, as far as membership to the EDM Council, we're a company-based membership. So if your institution, your company is interested in joining, everybody in that company becomes a member. And it's public and private sector. So for example, the entire Federal Reserve System, including the board in Washington, is a member. That means everybody who works for the Fed can access our materials and research and so forth. So All that information, edmcouncil.org, go and visit. As far as the partnerships, funny that came up because I think like all of my colleagues on this panel, we've recognized how important partnerships are with other trade associations. Oh yeah, I saw you had a partnership with the privacy organization. We're doing work with a number of organizations. Well, in fact, we're ironically creating a function within our organization, strategic advisor for strategic partnerships, right? Because we've done it ad hocly, but now we want to do it more formally. And Peter, that means you and I got to get in a room together and actually start to put some stuff together. And Sadie, pleasure to meet you. And I think, I think there's such an opportunity to work together because everybody is impacted by information. And jumping ahead a little bit, I know one of the questions would be what are the differences and similarities of our organizations, but I think we complement each other, but there are some nuances and differences. So many opportunities where we could work together and help promote each other's organizations at the same time, still support our constituency. So I'm really excited about this opportunity.
Yeah, so from Women in Data standpoint, you can just go to womenindata.org and there on the tab, there's membership. When you sign up for membership, you can select if there's a chapter you'd like to be associated with. If there isn't a local chapter in your area, you'll still be a part of the global network, and we run pretty much all of our programs and all of our webinars globally. And then from a certification process, you don't have to be certified to join. That's the whole part of we take you on the journey through awareness to advancement. And in terms of collaboration, that's actually how I got connected with all of these wonderful panelists, as Nino reached out to partner in Italy with DEMA. And unfortunately, we did not have an Italy chapter at that time. So hopefully that is still yet to come, but definitely a lot of collaboration happening and more after this. Over to you.
Thank you. Joining the Institute of Information Management is actually very simple. We have a unique ways of registering new members because in the past, registration usually is on our website, but now we've came up with a new process which has to do with the fact that every intending member is required to send in their updated CV or resume to membership@iim-africa.org. Why we did that was we did not want to scare away professionals from IIM membership because some other professionals from other discipline or other walks of life do have this phobia. Each time you're asking them to join the institute, they tell you, oh, I'm an engineer. I don't think I have anything to do with technology. We tend to convince them that, look, you know, IIM membership is unique. And what we have put in place is to separate certification from membership. So you have to come in, join as a member. Then if you are interested in certification, we have the certification parts, which you can actually begin. So membership is separated from certification in IIM. So when members come in to join, we give them a specific training which qualifies them as accredited members. So we refer to our members as accredited members, and they get accredited membership certificates as at the point of induction. If you have the time, if you can check out some of our videos on YouTube, you get to see how we perform this ceremony. We've actually been doing it online too because of the COVID pandemic. And in terms of collaboration, we're in the process of working with Nino and Group, talking about DEMA in Italy. They've actually extended a arm of fellowship to us. And we see that collaboration, you know, turning out to be something huge because there are so many things we're trying to put in place. We're trying to develop code of practice, you know, for the industry. We're trying to put in place a number of specification standards, you know, that can actually work here in Africa. And we believe that DEMA Italy, through the leadership of Nino will really go a long way in helping us to achieve that in record time. Thank you.
Nino, if I may, I was remiss in one point. For the council, though I mentioned it's corporate membership, most of our work groups are open to everybody. You don't have to be a member, and no certification. I thought those are all through, tests. But the ESG work group, the cloud work group, return on investment, even our women data professionals, and not just the only thing from Sadie, it's open to everybody. And we actually find that even Sadie, like the women data professionals, are co-members in other organizations, right? So they leverage of the fact that they can have other venues and such. So it is open to non-members, many of our work groups.
Oh, no, thank you for the clarification. Excuse me, Carl, I think we have 2 minutes to go.
Time for one more question.
Okay.
And this audience member is inspiring us. This panel represents a global community. And as a global community, how can we leverage and influence the role of the Chief Data Officer to address some very important societal issues? For example, could we create a CDO manifesto to go address carbon dioxide emissions and global warming and things like that? So with that kind of an inspirational question, how would we organize across our organizations for some common good issues like that?
In 2 minutes or less, right?
That's right.
Yeah, you know the order by now.
So it's going to be very difficult, I think, to do any justice to a good question like that. But these are the kinds of questions that we're facing. I feel personally that the pandemic has been more harmful to society because many people do not understand the concept of pandemic math, which is exponential increasing. And I'll just leave it at that. John, turn it over to John.
Yeah, I'll be real quick. We are actually doing that call today. The ESG Group is a collection of data professionals on how to manage data that's being reported by companies, that's being analyzed, that's being turned into financial instruments. $45 trillion of assets are in the green category. And we're working with data professionals on how to do that in a good way. From a societal perspective, we just finished a major POC on AML, tracking the bad guys. And we're using that model potentially, and there's an opportunity to analyze human trafficking. So data for good is a key component, and I can see easily how all of the folks on this panel could collaborate together to help facilitate those activities.
So from a CDO perspective, I would say, one, know that your people working in data want to do this work. And so it's a matter of 3 things to enable this, which is 1, give them the time to do it, 2, give them the resources to do it, and 3, give them a safe place where they can create and fail and learn from the mistakes. And if you're a CDO, it's really just about enabling people, because on a weekly basis, I know new people are coming into Women in Data saying, where's projects for good that I can work on? And we help to facilitate those, but there's even opportunity for you to do it at your organization. And I think it just comes down to those 3 factors of making it happen.
All right.
I think this is a wonderful opportunity where we all, I see this going beyond this program, because, and again, I want to employ all of us not to let it end here, because after this particular program, it's something we can actually come together and sit together and decide on some of these issues, around the globe that we can actually help to, provide solutions to, most especially talking about data leadership. A lot of organizations are struggling with that, and there are quite a number of other interesting topics and issues that we all can leverage on our knowledge and experiences, exposures, and so on and so forth, to be able to help this all important field of data management. This is a very key industry, and I think leveraging on individual strengths will go a long way in ensuring that we are able to help the society and the globe in general.
Okay.
Thank you, Oya. And apologies, we are a couple of minutes overrun, but I would like to quickly give two thanks actually to our panelists today. One, to coming here today and to share their experience of their work and the enthusiasm and for the wise input, which I loved. And the second thanks is for the organization you're representing. So that was when 10 years ago I started this work. What I was looking was exactly for what you are representing today. So for a community that could help me, drive me, and it was nice actually to meet all of you of different stage. So if people of our audience is not sure where to join, well, join them all, and then you want to do any disservice, I'm sure you will learn from all of them. So thank you very much, and love to have you all here. And Carl, back to you.
Yes, and thank you everyone for participating in Track E, for our panelists. As a reminder, these sessions are recorded and slides will be made available in the platform. So that's good for all of the sessions. And with that, we come to close.